special shout out to our sponsor, Qualia. Qualia is the category-creating digital closing platform used by thousands of lenders across the country to seamlessly work with their title and escrow partners. By working better together, Qualia is powering lenders to deliver a differentiated closing experience for their clients. Through real-time communications, closing status updates, and workflow management, Qualia brings lenders together with home buyers and sellers, title and escrow agents, and real estate agents for a secure and seamless closing experience. Qualia is proud to have been awarded the Housing Wire Tech 100 Award for real estate, as well as CB Insights FinTech 250 Award. Discover how you can work more efficiently with your title and escrow partners at qualia.com/innovators. That's QUALIA.com/innovators.
Hello, everyone. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Mortgage Innovators Podcast, where we deliver fresh and hopefully entertaining insights on all things mortgage and the innovation propelling our industry forward. My name is Michael Guidotti with American Pacific Mortgage, and every Tuesday you can find our rotating group of co-hosts who all share their own unique connection to the industry. This week, we are pleased to be joined by one of our just somebody that we love having on every month, one of our main sponsors, and it's Ty Cieloha from Qualia.
Hey, Michael, it's good to see you again.
Hey, good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you and the Qualia team being a premier sponsor of our upcoming Mortgage Innovators Conference. And before we get into it, want to make sure that everyone knows that the Mortgage Innovators Conference 2022, The Power of Innovation, is back in person in just a few short weeks for an experience that you don't want to miss. We can't wait for you to join us May 2nd to 4th at the Hilton Anaheim. Registration is live, and information about the agenda and sponsorship opportunities can be found at mortgageinnovators.com/conference. That's mortgageinnovators.com/conference. All right, my friend Ty, very excited to have you here today.
Let's do it. Let's get after it.
All right, so today wanted to kind of really spend some time going over the future of real estate kind of summit recap that you just had. That was last week, right?
Yeah, it was. We Qualia hosted our Future of Real Estate Summit called Force in Austin, Texas last week, and we had 3 days of absolutely fantastic content from real estate, mortgage, title. It was a really great conference.
So, you guys had like hundreds of people there, right?
We did, yeah. There were hundreds and hundreds of people there. I think we had 500 plus attendees, and it was a really neat conference too, because it was indoor and outdoor. So it was real nice in Austin. So we were able to go back and forth indoor and outdoor instead of just being stuck in a conference or a conference center for 3 days straight. So it was great.
Awesome. Well, I know that some of our team has some common themes that they took away from the conference. So it'd be great to get some of your feedback and your specific takeaways. But just if I may, a few things that we observed, that I'd love for you to elaborate on. One key thing was really standardizing and coordinating operations, that's going to really allow businesses to handle the volume fluctuations for operations and kind of this boom and down cycle, the down cycle that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, Michael, I think it's something that we talk about, pretty regularly on this podcast, with not just myself, but with a lot of other folks around, efficiency, optimization, standardization. But I think some of the key takeaways that I saw, Rick Hill presented some really great information from the Mortgage Bankers Association, talking about obviously the importance of standardization, collaborative platforms to drive consistent operations, both from within the lender, the title company, and the real estate agent. And then we had Aaron Canner, so he's the Chief Legal Officer of Real Estate Services at Acrisure. He was talking on an M&A panel that I thought was really interesting, and he mentioned that in the next 5 to 10 years, businesses are moving more from fixed to businesses moving from fixed to variable costs will be a trend to avoid to get caught in the cycle of waves. And I think that was really interesting in the fact that we always look at this industry, especially on the mortgage side of things, the ups and downs of refi to purchase, and do we invest in technology? Do we hire people? Do we lay people off? What does that look like? And so, again, standardizing operations when it comes to origination, the manufacturing, could be the servicing, could be title operations as well. Getting those costs to become fixed costs so that we can, at the end of the day, handle these market cycle fluctuations as they go up and down, and they're not really an issue because our businesses are optimized towards that.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, and it's so, I think, unique to our industry, right? Because when you think about it, the forefront of the the mortgage process is really the loan officers, which that is that variable expense. And then you've got all of these fixed expenses and costs on the back end. So I think, to your point, as we move more into systems and things where, we know what those costs are going to be, we're paying for them up front. We're not necessarily having that same, I think, pendulum swinging. You're going to see some of that lift. So that's a really interesting takeaway.
Yeah, I was just going to say, between that and I think just a lot of consolidation, which I think we see too. I mean, we're already seeing that right now, but there's going to be a lot of M&A activity. If I had to take a guess, I think on the title side, the real estate side, as well as the mortgage side. So, but I think we also see this every time we shift from one cycle to the other. We see a lot of this in the market.
Yeah, it's so interesting too, because I think the last 2 years were almost an anomaly of what was going to happen, right? Because it was like, I think the M&A and this stuff that we're talking about today was so close and so right on the edge to happening, 2 years ago. And then it was like everything just took off. So people kind of pumped the brakes because, I don't even know if they had the time to look really into M&A activity. So I think that's, I definitely think that's going to be back upon us. Another thing, the alternative real estate transaction models and the one-stop shops are really no longer futuristic. They're here now.
Yeah, that was really exciting. I think just again coming from being a millennial, seeing the influx of fintechs and technology and you've probably seen this too, where all these companies come into the space and then you sit back and you say, oh, these companies are really going to be around the next 2 to 5 or 3 to 5 years right there. And it's really interesting to see a lot of the different innovation. I think pre and COVID obviously driving some of this as well. There was a prop tech called Divvy Homes. So they actually offer like a rent to own model for prospective home buyers. So they were talking about urging home buyers to get educated about the new offerings available. And so folks that they give a really interesting example of, if you're looking to, especially in this market today, if you're looking to sell your home and buy a home, a lot of the times it's got to be contingent. Well, at the end of the day, contingent offers aren't really valid on the market right now because people are coming in with cash offers. So they had an alternative model that allows people to go in, buy the home if they want to, and also without having to have a contingent offer on the play. And so great example of something that is a result of the current market conditions, but is also allowing, especially younger home buyers, to get in on homes where you're coming in against corporate companies that are coming in with cash only offers, for example.
Yeah, that's something, you couple of good really tidbits there. Something we're seeing a ton on the lending side now, and you're seeing it from so many different angles with similar programs like that. You're seeing lenders launch that. I'm actually seeing, real estate companies, or real estate brokers that are having a similar type of kind of cash guarantee program. So it's not very often that you see a product like this coming in from actually multiple spheres, where the banks are doing it, the independent mortgage lenders, as well as like the real estate companies. So I think I think right when we're talking about innovation, I think that's just a key example of innovation in itself. And it's not necessarily technology, but it's also looking at a problem that we're facing with well qualified people not being able to get into homes, and banks and lenders and people coming together to come up with innovative solutions to help them.
Yeah, you nailed it on the head. It's solving business problems right there, and trying to get people into homes when they may not have been able to qualify prior. And it's really exciting. I think there was another really interesting one. So Ben Rubenstein, he's the founder of SetPoint and used to be the CRO at Realtor.com. He was talking about different business models, to make the transaction easier. And we're seeing a collapse of several services under one roof or one-stop shop. So you're seeing, mortgage lender that may have real estate services. You're seeing lenders that are building their own title services, for example, so that they can not only control the borrower experience, but they can just make it simple for everybody right there across the board. And so that was a key takeaway that I kept seeing as well from the conference is different parties, whether they're title, whether they're lender, whether they're realtor, getting into these ancillary services it's not only an upsell or an uptick in revenue, I think, as well, but also they're able to control that end-to-end borrower experience and then guarantee repeat business as well.
Yeah, and I think even we so often talk about the title, the escrow, the real estate side. I think where I'm seeing it, and I'm sure you guys are too, is even on the builder side. You're seeing more and more the larger builders coming in to doing those types of mortgage companies, joint ventures, and I think it's obviously a revenue play, but also again really that borrower experience, having that ability to control the end-to-end process, which we kind of identified as a gap a lot of times when you've got so many different companies and entities kind of involved in that one transaction.
Yeah, and builders are a really unique example because even in a purchase market, right, they can control title, and so they can send all their business to a single title company. So you're seeing not only the large builders, we're seeing this a lot of smaller builders where they have their own real estate services, their own builder, their own mortgage company, and then they also have their own title company as well. So they can completely own that end-to-end service, even if they're a small regional operation, just like the national ones are as well.
Yeah, yeah. Just probably a lot of ABA agreement disclosures in those packets.
100%.
And another thing that I really, thought that you hit the nail on the head was around, companies that aren't necessarily, when we're looking at these fintech companies and these vendors coming into the place, I would love your feedback on kind of it. But, for me, it's kind of running it through a scope of, is this really a company or is it a product? And I think that there's been a little bit of like ambiguity in that, right? Because you've got, something that does one thing really, really cool, but what is your next 2-year plan? Because there's this person over here that maybe doesn't have it right now, but they can just grab the data and kind of create it, and they're doing all these other things.
Yeah, we saw that with, I came into the POS world, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and that's exactly what we saw. We saw some initial early entry tech companies get in the POS space, and we saw the LOSs generate their own POSs. And then from there, especially with the tech companies, it was how do you continue to stay competitive as products are starting to get much more commoditized in financial areas of business. And so I think, just like you said, the problem solving is going to drive a lot of innovation. It's also going to open up a lot of doors where people are going to say, oh, we can do that too and replicate that. So it's going to continue to push that competition and innovation. And then usually what we see, or at least what I've seen, new product comes into market, everybody jumps in this space, it's a shiny new toy, and then we see some consolidation over the next several years. And I think that's probably going to happen in the e-closing space too, after what we saw in the last several years due to COVID.
Yeah, I 100% think that that's going to be happening because it's like so many people flooded that spot right out of the gate. And I think with some of the, the regulations around e-vaults and some of the limitations that are there, it's going to almost force some of that consolidation because, you're limited on the amount of e-vaults that you can use. And just so many other things once we get into the full RON and those pieces and the state regulations. Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. Kind of talked a little bit about the housing supply, the affordability issues, some of the proactive solutions we're seeing out there. Outside of some of that kind of the cash guarantee thing, was there anything else that really stuck out to you at the summit on that?
I think it was more around affordability. So we had Senator Kirk Watson. He's a former Austin mayor and a Texas state senator. So he was just really talking about Austin specifically, the opportunities for Austinites to get access to home ownership, right, through greater financial stability. So Austin's an interesting area where you've got Tesla is flooded in there. You've got Oracle. You've got all these great tech companies, Qualia included, where there's a lot of great talent, and it's driven the housing prices through the roof right there. And so you have an issue right there where affordability is an issue too, right? Where there's a lot of people that have been living in Austin for a long time, they can't afford it. So looking at alternative solutions. They also really focused on career development too. So something that we really don't think about. I think it's a macro indicator, but a lot of career development within the city of Austin to help educate and get people into higher paying jobs so that they can choose to stay in Austin and not get pushed out or gentrified out of the city, get pushed into San Antonio or get pushed into some of the other areas where real estate may be a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I think it's almost like you guys had the perfect location for your summit to have that conversation, right? Because that's the main city that you hear about in the U.S. right now when it comes to that has really been Austin with all the Californians transplanting over there.
Yep, I get it. It's I don't know. It's a fun town too, and you're seeing a lot of influx. The influx of talent has been absolutely fantastic, and then it's a great place to have a conference because who doesn't want to come to Austin in was it early April when it's in the 80s and dry and it was beautiful out there.
Walking down 5th and 6th Street.
Yep, exactly. Popping around bars on 6th Street, exactly. Get some good barbecue and eating brisket.
Hey, well, and I think as we head into the home stretch here, I think this is a perfect kind of few final notes. But really, I think what were you guys talking about as far as like the resilience and adaptation that I think the industry, showed over the last couple of years, and what were some of the takeaways on that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you know this better than just like anybody does. This is a very resilient industry, right? We went through the '08, we went through TRID, we've gone through the influx of like the fintechs, we went through COVID. And so all these changes that impact not only the industry, but the country have a huge impact on the individuals in this industry. So there's a huge focus, I think, on just resiliency, how tough people are. I think, again, innovation in times where it's needed. When times are tough, that's where the best innovation comes from, and people get very creative. So I think this industry continues to really be really resilient. We had George Foreman, actually, so he was the keynote speaker, which at first I was like, all right, George Foreman grill, obviously, I grew up at the tail end of his boxing career too, but he's done a lot. It was really cool just to talk about, the fact that, he was a heavyweight champion, he was an Olympic champion, came from a lot of poverty. He is also a great entrepreneur. So outside of his grills, he's done a lot of real estate transactions and business deals. So his, big story is, he's gotten knocked down a ton. Obviously, it's a boxing metaphor, and he always continues to get up. And I think it really aligned really well with what's going on in this industry.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's so often, right? I think it's just without having that like real visibility, it's so interesting to see what some of these people are involved in and some of the early investments that they make and how they've really set themselves up. Whereas we just, a lot of people, especially millennials now, don't even know George Foreman as the boxer. They know him as the grill guy, right?
Yeah.
So I think it shows his ability to pivot after, one career, ended and into something new. So totally agree. Well, in closing, man, any key takeaway or item that we haven't, touched on yet that you just, want the listeners to really be aware of as a takeaway from the event?
No, I think you made most of the major key points right there, and I really appreciate you bringing those up. For anybody that's looking to come to a great conference, we'll be doing fours again next year around the same time. So we'll love to have anybody attend, realtors, title folks, as well as the mortgage industry. And we're really excited for Mortgage Innovators coming up in a couple of weeks too. So I'm absolutely pumped. I'm going to be there. A bunch of our team's going to be there. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody and seeing the next gen of tech as well.
Yeah, love it. Well, thank you so much, Ty, for making the time to be on today. Thank you and the friends at Qualia for your sponsorship and your involvement. We really appreciate it. Everyone on, thank you for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe to the Mortgage Innovators YouTube channel or wherever you podcast. And until next time.